Time Grand Prix overall standings. We have Sofia Gomez Vichafane in the lead. In fourth place, we have the ever-consistent Haley Smith.
Now you seem to be steadily getting stronger through the season. I mean, was that your plan?
I came in with a very slow start to the season, and that was deliberate.
Are the riders ready and recovered after 200 punishing miles in Emporia, Kansas?
I've been very consistent, and I've been on a super slow burn, but what is more successful, it's hard to say. It depends on what your goals are. I'm not used to the spotlight. I don't really like the attention, and I'm just here to race my bike, so we'll see.
And sure enough, yeah, you can see the emotion.
I've saved my matches, but that's because we're doing 6 events, and each of those events, you have to deliver consistently in a different way every time. And that's super unique. And I think if you can look at it with that perspective, then it's easier to stay motivated to the end because every race is something completely new and different.
Okay.
Good thing we cleaned them. My name's Haley Smith, and yeah, I'm a bike racer. So I'm from a really small town north of Toronto. It's called Uxbridge. We grew up in the woods, very similar to where we are in Wisconsin right now, and I spent so much time playing outside. The road I grew up on was gravel, and it was a dead end, so we would have freedom to just go rip on our bikes up and down the road. It was always part of what we did as a family. It's freeing. Like, being outside it grounds me, it makes me feel less anxious, I can just breathe. I don't know, I think that sometimes my brain looks like this, I'm sure everyone's does, just like a jumble of words or letters and thoughts and feelings that you can't really make sense of, but that's why there's art, because I can't put it into words, right? So it describes how it makes me feel when I can't actually describe it. I still don't understand why I am the way I am. When I was 14, I had had a long-standing relationship with anxiety. I was hospitalized with, at the time, it was anorexia undefined. And I've since later been re-diagnosed with something called orthorexia, which is a newly categorized disorder. And the hallmarks of someone dealing with that is extreme food restriction, but also extreme exercise. Those were both things for me, and I got really, really sick physically and mentally. And I was diagnosed with a couple different mental illnesses, and the bike was how I recovered from it. My dad and my brother had been biking recreationally, and I decided to buy my first bike, and that's when it flipped. It became my sin, and though I didn't love it at first, it wasn't fun at first, it was a way to manage my brain. It quickly became something that was just like my purest source of joy.
I honestly have been wondering if I would ever win a race again,
in the 30 plus.
So that's a pretty big one, that's cool. I'm not washed up.
It's a practice in mindfulness, cycling is, and I think that's probably at the core skill that I learned through the bike that helped me get better. I think of it as being able to separate yourself from your thoughts and your emotions, and you usually practice that through a formal meditation. Meditation can be anything that's sort of a repetitive activity that takes you into a flow state, and cycling is that. You're out there for hours on end, often alone, pedaling circles, and yet if you're on a good ride, you don't notice the passage of time. There's been periods in my life where it has been only about just doing the work and getting the result, and you can do that for a little bit, but that's not why we're alive. That's not why we started turning pedals in the first place. I think probably the first time I ever experienced it in biking would be in racing, where it's so intense and it requires so much of your focus and energy that you have no choice but to be present. And then out of that, I realized that I had an opportunity to to show those kids that you don't have to be defined by a diagnosis and that you can achieve whatever you want to be, and the only thing you need to do is have a dream and have the courage to pursue it. And that became my purpose, and my mountain bike became the method.
Your first ever Lifetime Grand Prix overall winners, Keegan Swenson and Haley Hunter-Smith.
I've learned so many things, but I think it's an impression that I'll be left with now, and it's that I love this, and this is where I belong. And that's kind of the feeling I'm left with after the end of this year. So.